Hi. Does any oh should I
No.
Okay, good. Can you see me now? Now I can't see my chat somehow. Okay. So it's open and back over here in my chat. And it's echoing back at me. Anyway, hi Ron. Hi Jeff. Hi Lisa. Hi hubby. So this is my very first live stream. And I figured that I would just chit chat with you guys, but also I'm going to mute myself on this end. Chit chat with you guys, but also tell you kind of some of the things that have changed in our criteria for where we want to live in France, where we're going to be. And I'm showing you my TARDIS pillow over there. I might as well just pull it up so you can see it. It might be backwards though. No, it's not. Yay. Shows what a nerd I am. But anyway, when we first were talking about going to France, we were really kind of intent on just a few things. We knew we didn't want to have a car. So we knew we needed to live somewhere where there was a train station and good public transportation. So that's one of the things that were in our criteria. And then as we watched more videos like Jeff's videos and everything okay?
I was just looking at
as we're looking at more videos like Jeff's and like Baguette Bound and the Europats explorations and all of these different groups. And hi, I've lost your name, French Village Stonehouse Diaries. Great with faces, bad with names. So my video itself is lagging behind when I'm speaking. So I'm trying not to look at myself because it's behind. So I've muted my own live stream video. But anyway, thanks you guys. I don't feel lonely anymore. I'm not worried that nobody's going to come. You know, it's always that, is anybody going to come to my party? I invited all these people. Is anybody going to show up? But so it's a good party. Let's see. So our first criteria was anywhere in France, to be honest. We weren't being picky at all because anywhere we end up is going to be a great place to end up, right? But I say but a lot. Sorry about that. I edit that out of my non-live videos. So one of the but the second criteria after that, we realized we can't live just anywhere. It has to be in a place that has that good public transportation so we don't have to have a car. If anybody has any things that they've seen already and would love to tell me about, oh, hi, Ty. Ty Cobb from Nice, France. Thanks for coming in. I have a dog in my lap. And I have to show you, this is Clove. This is Clove. She's our little girl. She's very shy. So I'm going to put her down. She's coming with us. We also have 2 cats that will be coming with us. I don't think they will make an appearance here today. And one of the other criteria we had, all of this criteria is going to go straight out the window if my husband Dale gets a job that he has to be on location for in France, if he gets a job working for a company in France. He's in informatics, so he has a lot more potential choices of working in France himself than I do. As I am an artist, I'm self-employed, so there's not really a whole call for artists. And if I taught, I've been a teacher here before, if I taught English, it would be I would have to go through the training and all of that stuff for very low wages. Teachers in France don't make much more than teachers here in North Carolina do. So I think that I'm going to stick with my self-employment. But if Dale gets a job, we'll just live wherever he gets a job. However, if he doesn't, or if he gets a job for a French company, but he can work remotely, then that's fine. He'll be able to work remotely. So it won't be as big a deal. And thank you, Jeff. I'm so glad you were here, because otherwise I would not have known that I had to go into my studio to start this thing. I thought I was just waiting for the video like everybody else. Hi, Damien. Welcome. Thanks again for your advice on the business end of things and for your thoughts on that stuff. I think that was you. Maybe it wasn't. Are there more than one Damien on the YouTubes? So, but yes, along with Ty, not having a car is a very important criteria for us. Another criteria has come up more recently, and that is that when we first started looking, we were looking everywhere. And then I realized we were looking first at like Lille, which is right up there in the north and is such a hub to go to everywhere else, like London and all of that stuff. But then I realized I never wanted to live in Seattle. Why would I want to live in a place that has even more rain than Seattle? So took that kind of off the plate. And also, we didn't want to live in Paris. It's too crowded and it's also too rainy. So that kind of shoved us further south, because I get seasonal affective and I don't want to live in gray skies all the time and feel kind of bleh when January and February roll around. Because after the holidays, there's always that post-holiday slump where you're just tired of the gray skies by now. Yes, Damien from Brittany. You must be the same person that was giving me good advice. Thanks. But another criteria outside of that, so we started looking at places in the South. Now, I will tell you, my fairy tale place that I have always dreamed of living is Carcassonne.
Annecy.
Well, Dale's is Annecy, France. Some of you probably saw that video that I did about Annecy and why we probably won't be there. Number one, it's pricier than many places because it's in the Alps. And number two, there are tourists almost year round there because they have winter sports and summer sports and a beautiful town in the Alps. So, and we didn't want to grow old and be slipping on the ice a lot through the winter. So we ruled that one out for multiple reasons, even though we would love to visit and do weekend trips there because it's still like the Beauty and the Beast village. But my dream has always been Carcassonne because, number one, it is the largest and oldest and most beautiful and redone medieval castle in all of France. And so it's beautiful. no matter where you live in the lower city. And what's funny is they call that the old city, the walled castle part of the city. And then the outer city across the river, they call the new city, even though that's still like 1,000 years old. So, so it's just all in how you look at things. Here in the US, outside of Native American stuff that got saved, which is rare, there aren't 1,000-year-old buildings. There just aren't. There aren't places that are that big and that old until you go down into, the old Mayan and Aztec builds down into Mexico and Central America, etc. So Carcassonne is the first place I've looked, and I've already made a couple friends in Carcassonne. There's a guy named Rich that does a, let me see what it's called Le Simple Sudiste, and it's Rich Kagan. And he and his husband and their daughter moved to Carcassonne a little over a year ago. So I've been following him and talking about life there. But he has, I really still want to go to Carcassonne, and I'll probably do art retreats there. Am I missing anything? Okay. Damien, English teacher in France, not sure. I'm not sure I understand. I don't want to be an English teacher in France, just so you know. I've been an English teacher for high school and for college freshmen here for many, many years, but I don't think I have enough French yet to be able to teach unless it's in an international school to English speaking students. Or to students who speak enough English that I can continue to teach them English. But I'm going to bring more of my online work, my remote work to France with me instead. And that will include bringing people over for creative retreats and my online community that I'm building of women 45 plus who just want to reconnect with their creative lives and live more intentionally and slow down. That tends to be very important in the hustle culture that is America. So I was looking at Carcassonne, and I was seriously dreaming that this was the place I wanted to be. And as I said, I already know a couple people there. However, there have begun to develop a couple issues I might have with that. Number one, we all know that worldwide climate change is happening. It's been happening for decades, but now it's becoming a serious concern. And in the last year in Southwest France, there have been a lot of really indicative things that have happened due to climate change. For example, hotter, drier summers, not as many vineyards to protect people from wildfires. So there were several pretty large wildfires in the past year. One very close to Narbonne, which is only about 45 minutes to an hour below Carcassonne. And my friends in Carcassonne could smell the smoke from those wildfires. And so that was a concern. And then also a lot of Carcassonne, just like many other small cities, faces trouble in the off tourist season in that they struggle to get enough business to stay open and not go under. We've decided Carcassonne, and their bus system is also kind of unreliable, let's say. And so even though they have a train station, it wasn't really going to be for us to not have a car there. So we decided to look move over more toward the southeast side of France, as Damien mentioned, to Avignon. I've been looking at that too. And then, and we're still looking at Avignon because it's a beautiful city. It's a small city. People keep trying to warn us in the expat groups that it's dangerous, but every town or city has its dangerous areas. You just have to protect yourself from the things that might happen. Avignon is probably, if we end up in the southeast of France, Avignon, as Damien mentioned, will be probably the place we end up. However, my husband grew up in Miami and then lived in Vegas and then lived in LA and then moved over here to North Carolina, to the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And he's tired of being hot and sweaty all the time. And to be honest, the older I get, the less I like that hot and humid climate. And I know that it doesn't usually get as hot as it does here for as long as it is here. But I don't know. We're still thinking about it. So my happy medium would be to find a place that is not super rainy all the time, but not super hot in the summer, except when they have these weird things like what did they call it? The canicule, where heat just rained down on all of France. And yes, the Palais de Papes at Avignon is just beautiful. I've been watching every video I can about that, and the park surrounding it is just amazing. But Carcassonne, Damien, you asked why not Carcassonne. That's why. The public transportation is not quite where we need it to be to not have a car. There aren't a lot of bus services that go out to all the surrounding villages so we could explore. And it has a small train station that can get places, but otherwise we're walking. And I'd like something that's just slightly bigger than Carcassonne. I do like, and my friends that live in Carcassonne have a car, so they're able to get around other places. Excuse me. Okay. Jeff, do you mean Carcassonne is beautiful but too small for you? I think I'm inclined to agree. And yes, Damien, I agree. To be a teacher in France is not a great pick because they're also overworked and underpaid. I enjoy students. I love working with students, but I also need to make a living. And I think my teaching in a public school classroom days are behind me. So in the past few days, though, what's another criteria? The town needs to be big enough. As I was saying, the problems that are happening in Carcassonne are like things shut down in the off season. And that means that a lot of people who are trying to get small businesses and keep them going in that down season need locals to come in and support them when the tourists aren't. So that made us realize Carcassonne is probably a little too small and a little too struggling for our transportation mainly needs. So, and for the fact, like I said, that we're not going to have a car. So that's why we went over to look at Avignon. And lately, I decided to do a search on the sunniest cities in France. And the first 9 were, of course, all along the Mediterranean. They were all like, Nice and Marseille and where Jeff lives. The name's gone out of my brain. Perpignan. But I think that and as Jeff has said, Perpignan also may have a problem with public transportation that goes late in the evening. And you know, you don't want to go meet your friends for dinner and have to get the bus back by 7 or have that 45-minute walk back to your house. So I've been paying attention, Jeff. So we didn't want to be right on the Riviera, and we didn't want that kind of heat. Like, and honestly, Nice has just grown too expensive, and the housing and rental market is crazy. It's hard to find a place in Nice at this point. And again, it's a little hot, and my husband is prone sometimes to really bad cluster headaches, and the glare off the water of the Mediterranean for some reason can enhance those headaches and problems. So we don't really want to exacerbate that because cluster headaches ain't no joke. Yes, Damien, Aix-en-Provence, we've been looking at too, although it's quite a bit more costly, it seems, than Avignon, for example. And I like that central location where Avignon is because you can get to Aix and you can get up to Lyon by train, and you can take the train over to, what is it, Arles, where Van Gogh painted for a few years, Arles. And you can do all these little offshoots from Avignon. And Jeff, I don't mind the sun, but it's the heat. That Mediterranean climate and the heat. I do love lots of sun, but I mean, I can handle the gray, rainy days too, as long as there's a patch of sun in between and not just gray for 3-4 months at a time. So one place that I've found, let's see. Yeah, I made myself a little list so I wouldn't lose track, because I also have ADHD. And so I tend to rabbit trail a lot. There are lots of little tributaries off of this river when I start talking. Let's see, anybody had anything else? Yeah, Jeff, and because of that, and because there have been a lot more wildfires over in that direction as well, kind of in that whole southwest area that's moving into the Pyrenees, that's become a concern to us because climate change is a concern to us. And what's it going to be like in 2050, for example, or 2040? Don't want to make us don't want to expect us to be too aged. So that's when we started looking at not only sunny places, but places that are really working hard to combat climate change, not just to combat it, but to handle it. And one of those cities is Nantes, the one with the big battle elephant up in the north. I don't know if that's in Charente-Maritime or if it's in Brittany or where, but it's up there somewhere. And though Nantes still rains and is gray too much for me, it is one of those cities that is buckling down and starting to prepare for climate change. They're creating more green spaces. They're creating a whole lot more pedestrian zones that are no cars, and biking zones where you can feel safe on your bike because you're not driving in the street, which never happens around where we live except a very few bike paths. So yes, Lyon is one of those cities that is preparing hard for climate change, and they're adding more green spaces, and they're adding to their infrastructure, and they're preparing for things including flooding or drought, because climate change, what's the river that runs through the two rivers that converge, the Seine and the Rhone, the Saône and the Rhone, in Lyon. And one of those rivers is fed by glacial waters from Switzerland. And a lot of those glaciers are melting away. So they're preparing in advance. They're thinking about what happens if there are drought conditions and the river's levels go down. They're talking about making more green spaces. So if there's a flood, there's more land to soak up stuff instead of stuff just running through concrete streets. So Lyon is really beautiful and really good, but it's also really, really, really big. And I know that Jeff wants that because there's a lot going on in Lyon. But I don't know. There's a high chance that one of the companies that my husband is looking at to work in might actually be based in Lyon because they're a huge medical research and healthcare area. And
they're in Durham.
And they're also in Durham, North Carolina, that company, and they're in Lyon, that company. And Damien, you have gotten ahead of me. I knew you were going to go there. Yes. And I'll tell you about it in just a few minutes. While we were looking for a sunny spot that's working toward climate change, that's being very eco-friendly, that has all of these things, and there are so many places in France that do. I looked up that list of the 20 top the 20 sunniest places in France that had the most hours of sunlight, not the most days or whatever, but just the most hours a year of sunlight. And the first 9 were all down there in the south. And then number 10 was La Rochelle. And that I went to look at as many videos I could find, and I went to their wiki page, and I looked at the population, and then I got sucked into these walking tours of La Rochelle, and I jumped on the expat sites on Facebook and all these places. And I have to tell you that this is the very first time I was brought to tears by the beauty of a place, was looking at La Rochelle. It's so beautiful, and it's got both the Atlantic and the winds off the Atlantic, and it does get windy, I'm sure, but they push those clouds away a lot. So it's the sunniest place in the northernmost tip, as Rob says on his videos. It's the northernmost tip of the southwest of France. That's the Charente, which is right next door. La Rochelle is in Charente-Maritime, but they're buddies. They're right next to each other. And La Rochelle is growing on me fast. And unless Dale gets a job that he has to be somewhere else, like in Lyon, I have a feeling that La Rochelle might be the place. And I'm doing a lot more studying. And yeah, and the Nouvelle-Aquitaine is down there too, has mild weather, etc. But again, I'm looking at the prices of cost of living, groceries, stuff like that. And one of the things I like is that La Rochelle and Avignon, my 2 favorites, are, for right now, are both about the same price. They're both similar rents, similar. I've been looking, and I haven't just been looking on like, what's it called? Numbeo. Sometimes their numbers are off because they're people reported, just like Wikipedia is. Laura! Hi, Laura from the UK is in the house. Laura and her husband used to live over here where we are. He ran pub trivia, and they have moved, and he's from the UK, and they have moved back to the UK as her husband's parents get older, and to help take care of them and stuff. So Laura, you're 5 hours ahead of me, and you're here. So I've got a friend that I know in person that I've met face to face in the group. Well, I suppose Dale, my husband across the room.
We've never met.
I've also met him.
We've never met.
You hush. But I'm actually really looking hard at La Rochelle as it compares to the cost of living in Avignon. And one of the things I loved about Avignon is because it's right there. It's in Provence. It's right there in all that beautiful stuff, but it's still like half the price of Lyon. And then when I saw that La Rochelle had the sunny spots and I started looking at that. Like I said, it's the only place that just looking at it and hearing the people talk about it that live there actually brought tears to my eyes. So maybe I'm just feeling hormonal. I don't know. But it is
That's sexist.
delightfully beautiful. And my husband and I lived, he didn't live there, but he lived in south of Florida. But I lived for a little while before I moved to North Carolina in a little Spanish uh, colonized town called St. Augustine, Florida. It's on the Atlantic coast and it's an old Spanish city, but it's right there on the Atlantic and it's small and it's the oldest continuous settlement in the United States area. Um, so it's Pensacola, Florida is one of those too, but it kept getting wiped out by hurricanes, so it wasn't continuous. But St. Augustine was very old and kind of has that vibe, you know, it has the marinas and the sailboats and the stuff. And it's just really got that vibe. And I noticed looking at the La Rochelle stuff, it's got a very similar vibe to me. The buildings are this sand bleached, salt bleached white color and just that, I swear that water in the marinas and in the bays looks like it was colorized by Disney or something. It's just that gorgeous. And yes, Laura, La Rochelle is not that far from Nantes. So we could go see the big giant battle steampunk element and go visit Nantes and be close to that side. And I don't know what you guys think, but who on here is from the US? Just chat a yes to me if you're in the US or from the United States. And while I'm waiting for that, Lisa, you okay? Did I lose you?
She just responded.
Oh, did she? Oh, yay. I'm on a little bit of a delay, so I missed your response before I said that. So, as you all from the US know, that to get anywhere in the United States, you have to drive. There aren't enough trains, and they're way too expensive when there are trains. They're or you have to drive, or you have to drive to the airport and then fly, and then rent a car on the other side. And if you're driving, we started getting into this weird thing of, well, we don't want to be on the west side of France or on the southwest side of France because we'd feel so cut off from the other stuff. And I must admit, I had Adrienne Leeds whispering that in my ear because she says that a lot. She's like, oh, but that's just so far away. You need to be over on the other side so you can get on that TGV and go. Well, the TGV goes to Bordeaux now. And it also goes toward La Rochelle. You can ride the TGV almost all the way there. So, but we had gotten into that thought of, well, maybe we do want to be over on the side where we can get to Italy fast and we can get to Switzerland and Germany and all those places fast. And then it hit me the other day when I was looking at La Rochelle that I have family. I live here in North Carolina, right in the middle of the state. It's a very long state. It takes us 2.5 hours to drive to the beach, to Carolina Beach. On the one side, going west, it takes us 3.5 hours to drive to Asheville in the Appalachian Mountains. Or are they in the Smokies or Apple? It's the same group, the Appalachians. It's the same bunch. So, and yes, I agree. Côte d'Azur is too touristy and expensive. I agree fully. Though I have to say, La Rochelle is very touristy too, because even the French people holiday there. But I don't mind tourists. I feel like sometimes I don't want to live in a place that's so sparkly and with Cannes and all the Monaco and all of these places that are so fancy. I'm not all that into the fancy. So La Rochelle to me is still beautiful and it's still fancy, but it's not celebrity fancy. And again, it's like half the price of places along a lot of places along the Mediterranean. So I started remembering, you know what? I live in North Carolina. I have family members that live in central Missouri where I grew up. I also have family members that live down in Florida. My daughter's in St. Augustine, my mom's in Pensacola, and sorry, I got a tattoo and it's plasticed up. So if you see this weird stuff on my arm, it's because I'm covered for healing. So no air gets or no infection gets to it. I'll show it to you later. Once it heals and I get this plastic off of it. It's 14 and a half hour drive to get from here, this house, to a family house in central Missouri that I grew up, where I grew up. 14 and a half hour drive by car. It is a couple hours in the airport to wait for my plane to fly to St. Louis, and then an hour and 15 minutes or the time it takes to get to the shuttle to the car rental out of St. Louis and then rent the car and drive to the town still is a good probably 7-hour time block. And that's flying. My husband's family all live out, his kids all live out on the West Coast in California. And one of my sisters now lives in Oregon. And that itself is what, like a 4 or 5 hour flight? And that's a direct flight. So you're talking, that's without layovers and that's without the time at either end to do what you got to do to get moving. And my mom in Pensacola and another sister, that's a 12 and a half hour drive from right here where we live in North Carolina. And so the more I thought about it, the more I was like, why am I worried about a 2.5 hour train ride to Paris from La Rochelle, and then another 2.5 hours to 3 hours down to Lyon from Paris? I don't even think it's that far, is it? I don't remember. But why am I worried about 5 hours on a train when I've spent 14 hours in a car? And to get from one end of the country to another by train in 5 to 6 hours, I'm just like, why am I worried about being on the West Coast of France? Because everything is close. Everything is within a half a day to a day-long trip. So I've decided not to worry about that anymore. Wherever we fall in love with, as I said, unless he gets a job on location somewhere, is where we're going. And I've been looking, and La Rochelle actually has universities and hospitals there. And they also sometimes have jobs in the informatics arena. So who knows? Who knows where we might land? I know that if he gets a work visa, I'll get to come on any visa and do what I want to do. If he doesn't, if he works remotely for an American company that's not in France, then I will either be getting the visitor TS visa or the profession liberale visa. I'm not sure which one is going to work out for me. I'll be consulting an immigration lawyer. Okay, let's look. Ty, being a bit older, the availability and quality of medical care was important to our decision, especially since we were not going to have a car. Yes, I agree with you there. We decided to retire pre-retirement, or to not retire, to leave, go to France pre-retirement. Partially, we were already thinking about going in our retirement, but of course, some of the things going on in America these days, and also the fact that we just want to get we lost someone we love very much about a year and a half ago, and they died too young. And we realized that we don't want to take the chance of waiting to reach our dream. We've dreamed about living in France or Italy, but Italy we counted out pretty quickly. Too much bureaucracy, too slow, and too many demands, and different demands depending on where you are in Italy. But we've dreamed about living in France since 2016 when we went. So why wait until we're retired if we can get work or take work with us? That's why I'm building my business online right now. And that's why we're going to take those things with us. I'm also a professional certified coach. So I'll be building that as well within my community that I have online. So if any woman 45 plus is interested, you'll see that community linked in the description. Sorry, guys. This is for everybody, but the group is for women only. What was I going to say? I lost. It went away. How many of you does that happen to?
Healthcare.
Oh, yes. Ty was talking about healthcare. We're moving before we retire, but I am 59 years old. And Dale is a little younger than me. At what are you now?
Cradle robber.
53?
Yes.
He's 53. So we decided we want to go now. But we also know that as we age, we want to have good quality medical care. We don't want to live in a medical desert. There are more and more, and medical deserts have been in the US for a very long time. But there are more and more coming because hospitals are closing, because funding's being taken away. So our government seems more interested in lining the pockets of billionaires than helping people who are sick. So we are also going to make absolutely sure that we end up in a place that has good health care, has hospitals available if there's an emergency, and isn't a medical desert, where there aren't enough general practitioners that you can find somebody. I know that Rob and Lisa in the Charente have been looking for 2 years. They were just talking about this in his most recent video. They've been looking for a couple years now for a general practitioner and haven't been able to find one. They finally found a dentist, I think they finally found a general practitioner somewhere probably within an hour of where they are. But when it takes that long, we don't want to be in an area like that. We want to be in a larger place that has that medical care available. And I've been looking, and both Avignon and La Rochelle have good quality healthcare available and in the same area, in the same city. So yes, that is definitely something that we are looking at and that is in the criteria of what we want. What does that make so far? Let's see. Criteria. Unless Dale gets a job somewhere, then it's all out the window. We go where he gets a job and we'll be happy wherever that is because it's France. Let's face it. Let's see. I'm going to take these off for a second. So it must have the rail station, must have good public transportation. The only differences between public transportation in Avignon, and I'm comparing Avignon and La Rochelle because they're at the top of my choice list right now. The only difference between them is that Avignon has a 5.5 kilometer tram that runs through the walled city. And so there is a tram there, and there's good bus services there too. And the TGV is outside of town a few miles, but you can hop on a train from inside the town and get to the TGV station quickly. So they have a tram where La Rochelle does not. However, La Rochelle has a very robust bus system. They're a compact city, just like many cities in France. So they're very walkable. And they're, well, as I said, they don't have a tram system, but I've been looking and they have bus stations and bus stops everywhere. And not only in La Rochelle proper, the bus goes out to these outer boroughs and villages and suburbs and even villages that are half an hour away. The buses reach out to those. So talk with my hands, can you tell? And they also have a very extensive biking rental system. You can rent regular bikes, electric, etc. And until we get settled and we will be purchasing our own bikes if we settle there, especially because it's flat. But Avignon too has a lot of nice flat trails. And we will be purchasing our own, probably electric bikes, so we can go more miles and not wear out as fast. But their bike system and their bike paths and places, even the bike paths that go from La Rochelle to the outer towns and villages are just, they're amazing. There's tons of them, and they have a lot of pedestrian walking spaces, as Avignon does as well. They have, in fact, I think La Rochelle is kind of more robust in the bike paths and bikeways and walking without traffic areas. It's also a little, I'm pretty sure it's a bit bigger. I'm not sure. I think Avignon is somewhere around 90,000 and La Rochelle, now I can't remember. Maybe it's only about 80,000 in La Rochelle, but there are so many outer parts of it and areas of different towns that have all kind of bled together there that it's pretty big, and it's
Avignon
relatively
is 90.
flat. But
Avignon is 90.
Avignon is 90,000 population, and it doesn't have a bunch of offshoot suburbs and villages. It's pretty much in there, and then there are suburbs in the outer walls.
La Rochelle is 78.
La Rochelle proper is 78,000. The area around La Rochelle, I think, brings it up to like 140, 150,000, something like that. I was reading it on something yesterday, but I didn't write it down. But everything is flat there, which is nice for biking. Let's see. You've started looking at Nantes, previously only considering Ken. Is it Ken? Is that how you say it? Caen, Ken, and prefectures in Brittany. We were looking at Nantes, but it's just too rainy for me. Even though you just can't beat a giant Jules Verne-esque steampunk elephant that moves and that you can ride on and that shoots steam at you or water at you. I mean, that's really hard to beat. I mean, Toulouse has the giant Minotaur that does similar things, but at least La Rochelle is sunnier and it's close enough. We can take day trips. Laura said, you have friends who live in Rambouillet in the, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that right now. Has TGV links and is a nice city. Have to dip out, but this has been good to see you. I love you, Laura. Can't wait to see you in person. I know you guys are coming in November, right? For a visit. Can't wait. I think somebody else I follow lives in Tours. What's her name? The one I was talking about the other day that has the hexagonal glasses. I've lost her name. She lives in Tours and says she likes it. Is it Tours? Is that how you say it? I'm trying to learn pronunciations and not sound like a hillbilly. You're talking about Nantes that has that indoor mall? Yes, I've seen people show it. It's amazing. And I was saying earlier, I don't know if you were on yet, but Nantes has uh, is gearing up for climate change by creating all those extra green spaces and all of those walking and biking paths and pedestrian areas that cars aren't allowed and stuff like that. So on it's really up and coming. It's really moving up in that whole change this city into a city that knows how to deal with climate change and knows how to deal with those kinds of things and is getting ready for it. Thanks, Ty. I'm glad you came. Hope you have a great evening too. I can't believe it's already almost an hour. So criteria, so what we had was can't be Paris, don't want to live in Paris. Just don't. It's too big, it's too claustrophobic, and it's too expensive. Must have the rail station, must have good public transportation, must have good medical care available and close, must be walkable. Let's see. Must have enough sunshine that I don't fall into a pile of depressed lumpy. It really does, Jeff. Time does go by fast. And Damien, healthcare would only probably be an issue if we lived in a very rural area, and we're not going to be doing that. We're not, I don't want to farm. I don't want to raise animals. I don't want to have crops. I don't want to mow a big lawn.
I do not want to mow anymore.
My husband also does not want to mow. So we will be living places with good medical. And let's see. So that's pretty much what I've got. Sunny. Oh, and there's one other thing. Patricia Brooks, she has a channel called Courage Catalyst. Patricia Brooks said something that resonated with me. When I went to visit my mother when they lived in Illinois, that's the middle of this country, and it's just flat where they were. There is nothing for miles, just cornfields and flatness. And I remember telling my mom, she was saying, well, you should move over here. There might be better jobs over here than in Missouri. At the time I was young and had a young child. And I looked around and said, I would creatively die here. And Patricia Brooks said something like, she realized she needed to live somewhere that was full of beauty, that was beautiful to her, and that her surroundings were aesthetically nice. And I realized that I absolutely need the same thing. I need to be in a place that sparks my creativity. Here, where we are in North Carolina, I have got to say, it is beautiful here. The trees are lush, everything blooms, and it's gorgeous, though it feels way too subtropical for me now. But I've tried some of the bus lines in France, Damien. I agree. It just seems that I need to be somewhere, like I said, that sparks my creativity. Plus, if I'm having retreats with people and we're going out and doing some urban sketching and stuff like that from the retreat area, and I'd like to have at least the first one or two in the area where I settle, just because it's more convenient and easier. But I want them to be able to see things that they can sketch or that they want to sketch. I want them to feel their surroundings are beautiful and to feel their shoulders go down and not be so full of stress anymore. So that beauty is necessary. So that's my last criteria, is it needs to be beautiful to me. And it needs to be a place where I can bring people who look around and say, wow, I could live here. Okay, well, this has been great. Thank you guys so much for coming, because trust me, I was kind of worried that people would have an issue getting here. And especially people that are still in the US getting
If
here.
anybody has questions.
Does anybody have any questions before we sign off? Or thoughts or advice? Damien, I'm going to make you my guru soon. Jeff's already like Mr. Mentor for me right now.
How's the cat, Jeff?
How's the cat, Jeff? I might make this an every Saturday thing, or at least every other Saturday. I might just make this a thing, and we'll talk about what's going on that week and where we are in our DIYing. Oh, you're right. You know what? What I need to do, I need to change position so the computer doesn't focus, but also there are windows directly across from me too that reflect off my glasses. So you're right. I will try to change my angle so the computer isn't stuck in my glasses, or I'll just take my glasses off. I don't like how I look without my glasses. I look on video like I have bags under my eyes, and I don't in real life. But I'll either take my glasses off or I'll change position. Let's see. Oh, good. Ms. Freya is doing fine. So, well, everybody say hi to everybody that we know, and I hope you will come back again and let me know if you are interested in my deciding to. Oh, thanks, Jeff. Let me know if you would be interested if I decide to go live every Saturday and just keep you updated on what's going on that week that we're getting done and that we're doing and that we're looking at. I could even, tell you what cabinets I've emptied this week and stuff. So I will see you soon. I'm going to say goodbye and thank you again so much for this. And I'm not sure how to leave, but I'll figure it out. I guess maybe just close the window.
I don't think that would do it, but
I'm not sure. Bye, bye, bye. There's got to be a way to stop. You can click stop live. There's a stop live up in the create. No, I don't see stop live. Oh, wait, maybe it's over in the settings thing. End stream. Okay, thanks. Bye.